Hey guys, how's it going? This is Jeff. Been getting a lot of questions about what I think of Maui and what I compare basically the Big Island and Maui. And the reason I waited a little bit was because it could still be premature, but the reason I did wait is because I wanted to kind of get settled in and really, feel it out a little bit. So we're coming up on a month now being on Maui. Obviously, I'd been to Maui many times before I actually moved here, but you know, it's safe to put some the honeymoon's over and I settled in a little bit and I can now give some additional feedback. So I guess the first thing that really stands out to me is no vog. you know, on the Big Island you have volcanic smog. I yearn for the days to see the Big Island without volcanic smog. Because I really did enjoy going down to the pier and being able to see Hawalai on a day when the Kona trade winds were pushing the fog, out away from, out of that area of Kona. Most of the time, probably about 25 days of the month, it may be less, or maybe more, more days with Vog. I mean, rarely do you get Vog-free days or low Vog or high visibility days in Kona, because the Vog just kind of, it's there, it takes over, it sits, it's stagnant air, and it just, a lot of people I remember when I was there, and even myself, I would go like this with my eyes. I'd be like, oh man, what is going on with my eyes? And I don't know for a fact, but I would assume that that's probably from the Vog, the volcanic smog, the sulfuric acid that's in the air that kind of just settles in the Kona area. So that's the number one thing. Yeah, they say that Maui does get Vog, but I mean, every day I see really blue skies, and it's Vog free in my opinion. I'm sure there's a little bit of a residual carryover, but that's the number one thing. So no Vog. And I think that was a pretty big thing for me. As time went by in Kona, and I became more aware of the Vog, I was, that was a big thing. The next thing that I would say is I prefer driving in Maui compared to the Big Island. Now there is, a stretch of road that goes from like Kihei to Lahaina where it's kind of crummy driving, and that's probably the worst driving you'll get on Maui, which is probably comparable to what you would get during rush hour coming into Kona from Waikoloa, from the airport down to Kona. But also, Hilo gets that, what they call the Pahoa crawl, or the, where at rush hour, you're in stop and go traffic from Hilo, basically right there by Keho, all the way to HPP, Hawaiian Paradise Park. So I mean the traffic, but overall I prefer Maui's traffic. They do have a 4-lane highway that connects Kihei and Wailuku, and to the engineers and the developers and the people who had enough forethought to say, go ahead and add extra lanes. Kudos to you guys. You guys, that's huge. I mean, why they didn't do that more on the Big Island and have that much forethought? Because now it's just going to create a bunch of rework. Whereas on Maui, they won't have the rework because they took that extra step to make it happen the first time around. Sure, I mean, it could get to a point where they need to build 3 lanes, but I don't really see Maui getting in that position because most of the valley is still like farmland, and I think some of it's even zoned for government, like military installation or previous military government. They have magazines and stuff like that for ammunition, which I didn't know about because I thought only Pearl Harbor had like the magazines, but it looks like Maui has definitely some magazines where artillery would have been held. I don't think there's any artillery in there now, but that same kind of infrastructure is still there, which is also where they, in the area where they have sugar cane. So, sure there is room for development, but it seems like Maui is pretty much zoned not to be overdeveloped, like kind of like Oahu, but it could be. Another thing that stands out about the Big Island and Maui is, okay, so this is going to go for the Big Island. I feel like there's more to do on the Big Island. And I really do think the beaches on the Big Island are a little bit more amazing. Yeah, I mean, McKenna's cool, Kaanapali's cool, you know, but there's a lot of resorts, it's built up, whatever, but you can't beat Makalavena, you can't beat Kua Bay, you can't beat Hapuna. I mean, all three of those just alone, just those three beaches right there, are all better than even the best beach on Maui, McKenna. But then again, McKenna it's in a league of its own. I mean, you can't really say that, I mean, I guess you could compare Hapuna or Mauna Kea Beach to McKenna, but then again, McKenna is in a league of its own, and I think the thing that makes McKenna kind of special is, well, the shore breaks are pretty impressive, but then again, so does Hapuna get that. It's just, I would say Hapuna and McKenna are very similar, although they're not similar, but I mean, they're both kind of desert beaches, not very many palm trees. Well, Hapuna has some palm trees, but McKenna doesn't really have palm trees. They have like mesquite trees, and they have, you know, yeah, it's a desert, McKenna is. And Kaanapali's great. You know, these beaches, I do like Kamaole. Those are some pretty nice beaches. The beaches in Maui are different than the beaches on the Big Island for sure, because the beaches here are like muddy. There's and I think that's why they say there's more shark attacks here, is because the turbid waters, they're more muddy waters, which is where sharks tend to frequent, because it's easier for them to capture prey than in clear water like you have in Big Island. That's another thing about the Big Island. Better snorkeling on the Big Island because the water is clear. The beaches here are like sand dune beaches, so they're kind of muddy. Like Kamaole, you know, visibility right there. You can't see what's underneath you at Kamaole, you know, some of these other beaches. Whereas at Kua Bay, you go right into the water, the visibility is right there. It's like even Magic Sands or La'aloa or even Hapuna or Makalavena or whatever, you know, the visibility is pretty good, right? So the beaches on the Big Island just seem like they're, I don't know, more amazing. Simply because of the visibility, probably. The snorkeling, the way it looks under the water. Although McKenna's got some pretty good visibility, and, you know, the farther out you go, the snorkeling gets better here on Maui. As far as food goes, you know, both have that same kind of issue. Like, food is not, oh, it's good, but I mean, does it get better than that? Yeah, I mean, compared to the mainland, I mean, food resources on the mainland are a lot more abundant than they are in Hawaii in general, but comparable, I mean, you're going to get the same complaint from anyone who moves here or lives here. After a while, they're going to start complaining about the food quality. Sure, there's good food quality, but I mean, it's not the abundance as the mainland, but between the two, I mean, I wouldn't say either of them outperform each other. As far as fresh produce goes, I think the Big Island's got more fresh produce than Maui, just because in Hilo, you know, you got those farmers markets. The Hilo farmers market, you got Makapu'u farmers market, and then you have Kona farmers market. Here in Maui, you have some farmers markets, but this whole side of the island where I'm at in Kihei, in Lahaina, it's you know, it's fairly arid. It's not like Kona or anything where you got, you know, mango trees, papaya trees, avocado, all that, you know, right up the mountain. Here you got Kula and Makawao and, you know, Paia, and then you got Hana, but that's on the other side of the island. Whereas in Kona, on that same side of the island, you would have like Captain Cook and, you know, Koloko growing fresh fruit like right up the mountain, 10 minutes. Over here it takes a little bit longer, so it doesn't feel like there's that much fresh fruit here on Maui, at least on this side of the island. As far as jobs go, it's probably, there's more resorts here. There's more like developed resorts, or, you know, there's more I'd say the economy in Maui is stronger than it is on the Big Island. Although it seems like the people with real money end up living in like Hawalai on the Big Island or in Waikoloa. Here it's more expensive for rent though. Rent on Maui overall for the general population is more expensive. Like a $1,200 rent space on the Big Island on Maui is probably $1,600, just to put it into perspective. It's kind of like, I'd say 10 to 15% on average. I know that 1,200 to 1,600 is a little bit more than. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I'd say 15%, just 15% overall. And I even looked at like home prices. Like if you wanted to own a home, I mean, like a 3-bedroom home. Some of them in some areas are going for $1 million. And like in Phoenix, where my hometown is, if you were to go to Phoenix and get that same home, I mean, you're looking at 300 to 400,000. On Maui, that same home is $1 million home. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Whereas in Kona, you know, like I said, it's 15% difference. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Then there's no real cheap living like there is in Hilo or Hawaii, like there is on the Big Island, Hamakua. I don't think there's really any cheap living. It might be up in like Makawao and stuff like that in Paia. Probably Hana, you could probably get a cheaper rental, but you know, that's small area. It's not like Hilo, the second biggest town in all of, or the second biggest city, I guess you could call it, in all of Hawaii. You know, Hilo is the second biggest metropolitan area, and it's not even that big, right next to Honolulu. As far as lifestyle, I would say I'm more physically active as far as like health goes here. Probably because of the VOG, and I feel like the weather on Maui, this one's going back to Maui. I think the weather in Maui is some of the best in the world. That's probably what stands out to me the most, is because I also lived in San Diego for a couple years, which supposedly has really great weather, temperate. I would say that in particular Wailuku, like Ka'alui, some real great weather over there. Like, I mean, people complain that it gets hot, you know, when it's like 84, 85, but it's usually got a light breeze, and it's just, sure, you sweat, but I mean, it's not like an intolerable heat like you get even in San Diego in the summertime in July and August. I mean, San Diego's sweltering hot, especially the last few years. Kona, Kona, it's just freaking bright hot. Like the sun is hot in Kona. It's really a hot sun. I mean, it's not like Phoenix, Arizona or Las Vegas, but it's hot. So that's another thing. I would say, you know, there's a couple other things that you could point out. Like I said, the economy seems to be stronger here in Maui. Jobs, if you're looking for jobs, I'd say that there's probably more boats in Kona, it seems like. I haven't really got too familiarized with the boat community, like the Pride of Maui or down at the harbor, like I was down in Hanakahau. Because I got to know Hanakahau Harbor pretty good. I haven't got to know the harbor community down here in Lahaina, and I can't even pronounce it. I tried to pronounce it a couple times. It was like Hanakahau. It took me a while to get Hanakahau down. You know, there's like certain words that take a while to remember, especially when they're new words and they're not, you know. And a lot of people, they claim fame and they say that, oh, well, why don't you get it, you know. But it's not like I'm the only one who doesn't speak the proper words or remember, you know, like Kealakekua, like that took me a little while to remember too, and how to get that down. I'll get it down, I just don't remember the harbor name. But more than anything, don't try to be one of those wise guys who's like, oh, the name. Yeah, I laugh at that because when I hear so many other people try to remember all of the different Hawaiian names, I think people get frustrated when someone tries to come in from the mainland like they're the resident expert speaking the Hawaiian tongue like a pro. But anyway, I say that because some people have commented, and like, you can comment. I mean, you can say the name and try to teach me. It's cool. It doesn't bother me, but yeah, I just don't remember the name. Uh, yeah, as far as like cheap land, there's no cheap land here. If you want cheap land, you're gonna get that over in like Ka'u, Ocean View, Mountain View, stuff like that. Even in you know, Keho, there's some cheap land. Pahoa, Kalapana. Um, as far as the roads go, you can definitely do a circle around the Big Island, whereas on Maui you can't really do that because you can, but the roads aren't developed and they're not, you know, built for that. As far as like medical and healthcare, I thought the Big Island was pretty well set up for healthcare and medical. I I'm still trying to understand how the healthcare and medical system works here on the here on Maui. It's not as obvious as it was in Hilo or on Kona, you know. So I am trying to understand that. There is a mall here. It's probably no better or no worse than the one in Hilo. It might be a little bit better because it's probably a little bit more new, but that's about it. As far as transportation goes, like getting around on buses, Maui's got way better bus system than the Big Island, I would say. Yeah, I would have to give it to Maui, and it's just a little bit more efficient. But it's a smaller island, you know. It's the second biggest island in the state, but it's a smaller island by a long shot. I mean, the Big Island's huge. Yeah, so outside of that, if you guys enjoy videos like this, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.